Coming up tonight, I have dog chiropractor Garry Pitt with me. What an extraordinary wealth of information he is, and if you have dogs in your lives, you can't miss this one. Right after Garry, we've got the chat box. We've got a white speed demon fluffball by the name of Gigi in there. She's got a few little barking issues. Now don't go anywhere, put your feet up, get ready, we'll be back in a minute. Welcome to the Animals Television Show, everyone. I'm your show host, Romy Bueller, and I've got a great show tonight for the dog lovers out there, of which there are many, I know. I have dog chiropractor Garry Pitt joining me. We talk about many things like how do you look after a new puppy into your house? What do you do if you're in a rural or remote location and you've got a problem with your dog? He shares with us some of his case studies, a dog that's losing its hair, a dog that hasn't had a bowel movement for a week, and many more things, injuries and that type of thing. Right after Garry, we have Gigi and now Simba in the chat box. First up though, I'd love to introduce you to Garry Pitt. Hi Garry, welcome to the show tonight. It is an absolute pleasure to have you here, and I'm really excited to be talking to you about dogs and dogs' health and all of the things that you've got to share with us tonight. I know the saying goes that dogs are a man's best friend, but I'm sure on the flip side of that, that you are a dog's best friend in many instances. So thanks for joining me tonight. And I would love to hear a little bit more about what you do, because I know it's not just dog chiropractics and you do many things, but a little more about what you do and what made you decide to get into dog chiropractics as opposed to cats and horses and other animals?
Firstly, probably because as a kid, I've always had a dog, mainly like that. And my family were involved in training and racing greyhounds, and my friends were, and I'd always go to the greyhounds and watch it. And that's where I decided to start with dogs only on that sort of thing. And sometimes the other animals were a bit bigger and they were a bit scarier. At least the dog's going to fight, maybe. Yeah, but that's the reason I got into it. And I have had dogs all the time. And one of my dogs that I got, he fell off a cliff and he hurt himself. And there was another person in Victoria where I lived at the time who did that sort of thing. And I took my dog to him, and it took me 5 hours a round trip, and I could sit and watch him. But that then wasn't helpful, so then I found someone else and decided to do it myself and to learn. So that's how I come about doing it with dogs.
Right. I mean, they say nothing's a coincidence, don't they? So it's unfortunate that your dog fell off a cliff, but it led you to here, I guess, didn't it? So good comes out of bad sometimes.
Yeah, everything happens for a reason, and things that lead you into it, definitely. And that's what happened. But it took me a while to find my mentor. But once I did, I knew I was on the right track because I had people telling me he was the best, and that was coming from veterinarians and everything like that. And so I knew I was in good hands there. So that's when I continued to do it.
tell us a little bit about sort of chiropractics, I guess. Like, when would you use it, and why, and all of the other things that you do that are blended in and added on to that.
Okay, so when someone comes to me with their dog, the first thing I do is I ask them what they think's wrong with the dog, because they know the dog and they may think they know what it is. So I've got a video there where I do show of me checking over a dog. So the idea of it is to go over the whole dog. If you come to me and say my dog's got a sore on the right leg, on the offside, I will go over the dog from the head all the way down of that. And the reason being is that some things in a dog aren't showing up where you think they are. So the whole dog has to be checked. And while I'm doing this, if I'm looking at the dog's pads and its nails, I'll say to them, look, the nails are too long, which is very important for chiropractic, because if you've got long nails and the dog's slipping on the pads, that affects the structure of the dog. It can make the dog slip or can make the dog lame. And as you asked about the chiropractic side of it, chiropractic is working in with physiotherapy, pressure points, and it's not all about manipulation. It's about relaxing the muscles of the dog. So then if you have to manipulate a dog, you can do it gently first. A lot of people think it has to be done and you have to hear a lot of things, but you don't. And there's, over the years, the way I was taught, I've learned, and you learn from experience and you learn from other people as well, things do change slightly. But chiropractic, it's usually around the sacrum area, which is really the thing that upsets the dog through the hamstrings and everything like that. But also at the back of the dog there, in the internal part, you have the pelvis plate. Sometimes that can be a little bit off skew. And also the coccyx. You have 3 fused bones, and that cannot be fixed by a normal manipulation. So there's a technique with doing that. And once you've relaxed the dog with all the muscles, then you can find soft tissue injuries and things like that. And that's where it all becomes a balancing act. Yes,
I can imagine, because you're probably dealing a little bit with an anxious dog that's coming into you as well. So a lot of contraction through fear, I imagine, as they come in to see you. So what is your process, and do you always use acupuncture or massage with your chiropractics, or do you, just for the sort of the layman out there, I guess, if you can just talk a little bit about some of the other things that you do and how they complement. I understand you're just talking about relaxing the dog, which is very important to start with. Where would you use, say, acupuncture or ultrasound and things like that?
Okay, after the initial examination and manipulation of the dog, if the dog, say, had a muscle tear, and we know it's that, and we don't know if it's a deep one or whatever, you can tell it. Well, I can tell if it's a deep tissue injury or a soft tissue injury. If it's a soft tissue injury, gentle massage by yourself can stimulate the blood flow in the dog, and it doesn't have to be hard, just have to be stimulation very lightly, and that in itself can make the dog heal itself. We've got to remember that these animals can be self-healing. We are there to help them to heal themselves as well. So if you stick a little needle in a muscle, you've damaged the muscle.
Right.
Straight away, the muscle will start to repair. The idea of it is making it repair supple. If it repairs tight, you then have a long-term injury. Okay. So a lot of the time I would use ultrasound on a very soft tissue injury. If we had a big tear and there was a lot of swelling in it, I would use the magnetic field blanket. The dog is put on a blanket, lays down, and you've got different settings to change the breathing of the dog and the ions in the dog, and this then generates a help. So that is healing the dog. It is helping that, getting rid of the swelling, and then once the swelling goes down, it can be healed. So if someone hasn't got something like that, you've got to get rid of the blood flow. So you use ice. You massage ice gently into the area to get rid of the the swelling and to stop them from bleeding. That's for deep injuries. So with acupuncture, I usually use acupuncture mainly for really critical things like a dog's got bad back end, degenerative nerves or something like that. We use the acupuncture I use it to try to stimulate the nerves. That's what I use acupuncture. And ultrasound, it complements it. It's like the situation is 2 and 2 is 4, they say. But if you use 3 things, I'm looking at it, if I use the whole 3 things, I reckon it's 10. More things are better than just 1 or 2.
Yes.
So everything works in together. You can't just use one.
Right. So this is probably a little bit off to left field here, but you just made me wonder about, there are so many dogs. There are 77 million dogs in the US, 12.5 million in the UK, and 5 million in Australia, not to mention the rest of the world. There are dogs all over the place, and we need many, many, many more of you probably. But there are a lot of those dogs and their guardians or caretakers in remote and rural areas. Are there things that you could recommend to them to look out for? And are there things, obviously this is a very broad sweeping kind of question, because there's a lot of problems probably that you see with dogs, but are there things that you see often that us as non-observant kind of dog owners would miss, that we should be looking for, especially for the remote people that can't get in to see someone? And can they do anything about that while they're in rural somewhere?
Yeah, look, the most important thing is that if your dog's lame or doing something abnormal, the thing is you compare. You compare the 2 front legs. You look at it for swelling or something like that. The secret is compare one side to the other, one toe to that toe, what's this, that. And when you're touching the muscles, don't touch them hard, touch them gently. So the first thing is look for swelling, something like that. And touch. Dogs will be reactive to a touch if it's too hard. It doesn't have to be hard to find an injury. And this is where a lot of people press the dog hard and they'll tell me that their dog's sore in that leg, but it's not sore in that leg. So observation is the most important thing. And then the thing is, if it's swelling, it's ice and water, submerge it in ice and water if it's a foot or anything. Even with sometimes toes aren't broken, they're a sprung toe and they're swelling. And then if you go somewhere else, I want to x-ray it. But you can tell if the toe is broken by a gentle, soft movement. So it's all about observation. And there's a lot of home remedies that we can use. There's plenty online. We couldn't talk about them all now. And most things that you do for a human that is sick or hurt through physical exercise or sport, you can do for your dog.
Okay, that's good to know.
It's not really any different. So a lot of people out there doing sport, they've had injuries themselves. Think back to what you did when you were a kid or a bit younger or something. Oh, yeah, they used to do this. Things have changed, but it's still pertinent to it now.
Yes, yeah. So with the part of the observation, you're observing, just the swelling. Are there, you're looking at their behavior as well? Are they licking you or blinking or, turning their head away from you or towards you or something?
Yes, definitely. That's spot on. When a person comes to me, you've got a video there with a person sitting in the chair. If you wanted to run that. Like that, put your thumbs over the top like that. Okay. All right. All right. So when someone comes to me the first time with a dog, they've usually asked a few questions about what's wrong with the dog, and they will give me what they think is the problem with the dog. Okay. My job is to now check the entire dog. If you come to me with a dog with a sore leg, I don't just check that leg, I check the whole dog, because everything is complementary to that injury. Okay. So we go through all her muscles, check everything. Pull the feet. And I'll be telling this owner that their dog's nails are too long. It's very important that dogs' nails are kept short enough that they're not walking on them and you can't hear them. So I'll just gently palpate down the spine to search for anything that could be worrying or hurting the dog. If I find something, I'll apply a little bit of pressure. Doesn't have to be hard. And to follow it. Big problem with dogs is usually the sciatica, coming down through the hamstrings of the dog. And checking their knees, fibulas, patellas, and the whole lot. Get a reaction from the dog, push, see what happens. Another good thing to do is then just to check the dog's extension. A lot of people think that when the dog can go fully to nearly 180 degrees that it's a good extension. That's not a good extension. It means the sockets are too loose. As you can see, that's not 180, so that's a good extension for a dog that's over 8. She has good hips. I'm going to check all the muscles through here. Inside muscles, even though it's probably not a dog that's doing a lot now, or checking for tears and sore spots. And we come back again to the shoulders. A lot of times dogs hurt the deltoid, the top of it, they get a slight tear where the nerves are up there. Got to be careful of that. And a lot of dogs limp because the shoulder is just not sitting correctly. It's not that it's out, it's just a minor adjustment. So when you come to me, the dog is completely checked all over, not just with what you've told you or filled out the form. As I said, the nails are too long on this dog. It'd be good to have all the hair cut around from the pads so the dog's got traction better on slippery floors, but also the dog breathes through the pads. Another important thing is the diet of the dog. This dog has been desexed, and she's probably half a kilo overweight, but being her age is not a bad thing in the winter time. There you go. And that's a complete check of your dog. When I'm checking a dog, I'm always looking at the dog's head, looking and glancing, and as we were talking about that, a dog will, if you find a sore spot on the dog, it'll stop breathing. It'll hold its breath, or it will get its tongue and do that, move its tongue in and out quite a bit, or turn its head. And some dogs put it on. If I get a dog that I've checked, like the greyhounds, I check them regularly because they race, the dog will start to carry on a certain leg. And I'm going, something's going on here. But no, it doesn't want me to get to the injury. So sometimes dogs will indicate that there's something wrong where it's not, to go into avoidance so you can't hurt them as they think where you're going. So watching your dog's expression, watching their mannerisms is very important. It really is.
Yes. Do they have a high pain threshold, dogs? So do they not show their injuries until a certain point where it's really quite painful for them?
Yeah. The biggest problem is that people either wait too long to take the dog to be seen by someone, or they persist in something for too long that's not working. And then if I see them with someone else, it's harder to repair. So usually if your dog hurts itself, you don't have to go straight off and panic. You've probably got 36 hours, unless it's a broken bone, to assess your own dog, stay calm, see what you really think it is, then take action. So that's important. And talking about nails, the biggest problem with the nails is that people are scared of them bleeding if they cut the quicks.
Yes.
If you don't do it right, it's worse. So it's better for a little bit of pain in that to get the dogs to walk properly. The greyhounds need them on the sand tracks because they need to get anchorage.
Right.
Domestic dogs don't need anchorage that much because they're either inside the house, in the backyard, or running on grass. So it's really, I can't stress it enough. It's as important as your diet. Overweight dogs, it's the biggest thing. Too many people's dogs are overweight. And this causes all your structural problems and your muscle problems.
Yes.
As well.
So just from a nutritional point of view, which is, I guess, kind of linked into being overweight in some ways, but not so much from a weight perspective, but is nutrition important to consider from a musculoskeletal or a nervous system point of view as well?
Yeah, like if you're not feeding it properly, it's not going to grow properly. And if it's
Right.
not getting the nourishment, it is not going to perform properly. A greyhound, for example, go back to the greyhound. It's an athlete. It has to be fed properly. It has to be cared for properly. And 99.9% of them are. They are fed well. Their weight's kept to a certain weight all the time. They're not allowed to vary too much or they can't race them. And they're checked all the time, like fortnightly, regularly. Most dogs that go to a dog park or go to the beach, and the beach is the worst place ever on the loose sand,
Yeah.
you get a lot of cruciate injuries. They don't get checked. They might come once every 6 months, which is fine if there's nothing wrong with the dog. But a lot of the times you'll find old scar tissue on a dog or you'll find calcification because there's been a broken bone or something like that hasn't been attended to. And a lot of dogs get a lot of damage in the feet, in the sesamoids and that, and they've got swollen knuckles and everything like that. And that's when arthritis sets in. It's been left too late. So that's really important to be able, cure is better than waiting, so like that. And pain threshold, I have a dog that I'm having trouble fixing him. I've done everything properly with him. His pain threshold is through the roof.
Right.
And when he hurt himself, I knew what he hurt. I rested him for the 12 weeks. I did everything. I did the magnetic blanket. I did everything like that we talked about. And for some reason now he's showing signs that I've never seen him showing that leg. I've had him x-rayed. I've had him to a specialist they can't give me an answer. So now from this last 3 weeks, I'm going back to square one to see what I can do. So sometimes it doesn't work because of the dog's pain threshold. He shows no pain. No pain.
Yeah, so it's a tricky one, isn't it?
It's very tricky. It is very tricky. So sometimes you have to go backwards to go forward again.
Yes. Going back to dogs on the beach, because there are many of them out there.
Yes.
Just a kind of a little add-on to that, a question, I guess, around throwing sticks and balls and, all of those things. Do you see many injuries from playing with your dogs or playing fetch and that sort of thing?
Yes, I think that we overdo it. And I know we overdo it because dogs now are more part of the family than ever. And people like to play with their dogs with the ball and run them more than they should be run. Dogs aren't meant to run for an hour or 40 minutes at a time, no matter what dog is. If a dog's got high drive, it'll run till it will drop. And this is the problem. You go to the beach, it's fine on the wet sand, but when they get on the loose sand and they twist and turn sharp, the foot sinks in, they turn and they do an ACL. I get a lot of that. And we've had more ACL injuries since I've started than ever. It's because of overworking the dog or making them run too hard. People think because of that breed, like border collies, it's a herding dog. But a herding dog doesn't run all day. It does a job, then it rests, and it stops and starts. It doesn't do 40 minutes or 30 minutes continuous. And we do overdo it with our dogs. Yeah.
Well, you might have a few dead sheep out there if a border collie was rounding up sheep for 40 minutes, flat
That's
strap.
Right. They can't do it, and this is where your diet comes into it. I did show you some photos of a dog that had a poor diet, but also it had drugs that weren't doing anything to it. The dog just sat there, and that's another thing that we've got to look at, the diet, and that's what I believe in, a raw diet. A dog is a scavenger. It is it's a scavenger. And I have never known any wild animal or insect or anything to eat processed or cooked food. It doesn't. It's all raw. So I'm a raw person, and that's the way it is.
I'm with you.
Well, it is. You could try to balance it the best you can. It's never going to be perfect. And ever since I've had dogs, I watch all my dogs, what they do in the backyard, what they eat, what they don't eat, and that they let you know when they're sick as well.
Yeah, that's right. And it's really, I think it's really important for us as animal carers, whether it's a horse or a guinea pig or a dog, to observe more. We just sort of have our animals around us, but we don't really pay a lot of attention, really detailed attention of the limp or the what we might think is fatigue, but it's actually not. It's something else, and the vomiting and all that sort of stuff. So many things that I think we need to do better at with just our observation.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of times people think because a dog eats grass and it boils itself out that it's sick, and then it goes to the vet and it'll get some medication to stop it. Dogs will eat different things for different reasons and different grasses for different reasons than plants. Boiling out is to get rid of the acid in the stomach to help their digestion. And that's why they boil it out. One of my older dogs, I lost him last year. After exercise, he would eat a different grass. And I used to watch what he did. After he ate that, he went and urinated a lot. So he was getting rid of his own lactic acid.
Right. How fascinating.
Yeah. And my other dogs that have had trouble with the elbows, and this dog that's got, I know it's a knee problem, they will go, or did, go to and eat the comfrey plant. Now, comfrey plant is a bone knit, and I make the ointment for it as well for the external. But they were telling me, we have a bone problem. So I let them do it. And they'd eat berries and different plants or different bugs out of the ground. So it's all natural. It's all learning from the dog. You have to watch your dog.
Yeah. And that's, they're just very innately driven, aren't they? Unlike us humans. We don't really have any idea what we should eat or take that is a benefit to our system, as opposed to going and taking some drugs. And this is another reason too for animals going and eating grasses and plants and things like that we don't spray chemicals everywhere. So they're eating that on top of it. That's a whole other conversation, I guess, isn't it? But
it is, yeah.
Gary, I want to have a look at some of these case studies that you've got here for us. But before that, what is something that people should be really aware of with a puppy? What should they be doing or observing or working with a brand new puppy that's come home, that they want to maintain good joint and musculoskeletal health and every other bit of health that they should be looking at?
Okay. As we talked about, I think the diet's important. Make sure your dog's getting everything it needs to build. So there's plenty of raw diets, as I say, to go by, and I think raw diets are the best. And the thing with a puppy is do not over-exercise it when it's young. And another problem is that people start to make them go up and down stairs and get them jumping and everything like that. If you get a puppy at 8 weeks of old, it hasn't got any bone. You have to wait until the dog's at least 20 weeks of age before it starts to get foundation in the bones. And we get a lot of hip dysplasia, a lot of knee problems because people let them jump in and out of things. They get the stifle caught on a board and it upsets the ACL, or they've done an extension on it too much, or it's slipped on the floors and it's put the hip out of the socket.
Right.
So it's really important to wait, keep the dog nurtured until it's 20 weeks of age. Minimal exercise, more sleep, 3 or 4 times a day. Get the dog out and move around and play with it. It's like a baby. Treat it just like a baby.
Yes, yeah, that's really good information. So at what point would you start taking, and of course this is breed dependent as well, I guess,
Yes.
But At what point would you start taking them for a walk, and how long would that be?
Okay, I'd start as soon as the dog's had its first vaccination. I don't usually wait for the second. I'd have the dog out straight away, 5 or 10 minutes walk. It's very important the dog's socialised. We don't socialise our dogs properly here in Australia. We're not allowed to. Sorry about that. We're not. They've got to see people. They've got to see traffic. They've got to see noises. You don't want them to be scared. You don't want to get a fear biter. So you've got to make them confident, and you have to nurture them through that all the time. So, 10 or 15 minutes walking 3 times a day is enough. Play with them for 3 minutes. 3 minutes of playing is enough, because then they want to go to sleep, or they should, depends on their drive. Working dogs are a lot harder. They'll keep going longer. But, you just got to nurture them. You can't And never, ever let a small puppy run with a bigger or an older dog or play. This is where I get a lot of injuries from,
Right.
shoulder injuries, and foot injuries with this, because the bigger dog has collected it, or the dog's exhausted itself trying to keep up with the big one.
Yes.
Jumping down from things when they're young affects the shoulders of the dog a lot, and they'll get bruising inside the shoulder joint.
Yeah. That's great information, actually. And I know we had our border Kelpie, and we had an older dog who he had hip problems. He was a strange breed. Apparently he was a Pomeranian Labrador cross. We got him at 18 months old, so he had a few issues, but we would walk them together, but we had to work within the older dog's limits because, they were completely different. And, we kind of figured them both out. We'd walk them separately or we'd walk them together at the older dog's limits. But that's really good information. Thank you for that. And I want to ask too then, because you just mentioned something about desexing, which was not in relation to this, but are there problems with desexing? I guess maybe more from a female's point of view than male?
Both point of view.
Right.
I don't believe in desexing a dog. I think the dog has to be mature unless there's a reason, and most dogs are desexed too early, and it is detrimental to their health, and their longer things in life will come up. And it's been proven many times that dogs that desex early, there's a lot of things that go on. My dog that's in that video, she was desexed only because there was an issue with her in her ovaries and that, which I knew about. So I had her desexed. All my other dogs have been entire, and it's a matter of managing them. And I think they're healthier, and they're healthier for it, and it doesn't stop aggression in a dog. People will say, "Oh, stop your male dog, stop them from being aggressive, and it'll stop them cocking their leg." No, it doesn't. Some dogs will cock their leg no matter what. Some dogs will stop cocking their leg, so that's not true as well. So I don't believe in desexing the animals unless it's necessary.
Yeah, that's interesting. Gary, let's have a look at these case studies, because I'm fascinated to hear about these.
With the poodle, the dog was showing a lot of itchiness and everything like that, I believe, and it was losing its hair, and it was diagnosed to have a form of alopecia, and there's so many different forms of that. So this is when they come to me, and first of all, the dog was out of joint. Its whole body wasn't aligned properly, so I had to manipulate that dog. And because of its diet, I knew it was the diet was the problem, is that it couldn't have been what they were telling me. I could just see all the discoloration in the skin, the redness and things like that, and the teeth were really bad. So I asked them to change the diet, and they were in agreement with that. But also with that dog, what I did, I used the magnetic blanket. So the dog lays on the blanket, and it has all the different vibrations for different calibers, and it'll change all the ions and the oxygen in the dog. So the dog is now doing a cleanse and the self-healing. And we did that for 20 minutes a session, and it was for 6 weeks, once a week. And then they changed the diet. And within a couple of months, you can see that the color of the dog has changed. It was a black poodle when they got it. When it brought it to me, it was a brown, rusty grey dog with no hair. And those 3 pictures are a gradual improvement of the dog from start to finish by changing its diet and letting the magnetics help the dog's metabolism work better. And
Let's have a look at those images here.
Yeah, so you can see the before and after. Is a total difference in that, and mainly diet and getting the dog's metabolism to work better.
Yes, don't we love a before and after photo? That just it can really, it really just cements it in, doesn't it? And you have another dog that had a spine problem, or
that was a border collie, and she was an old girl, and the X-rays were sent through, and the diagnosis was that it would either have to be operated on or put down. It had a 30-degree change in the angle of the spine, and the dog hadn't gone to the toilet for about 5 days, I think, by memory on that. 5 or 7 days, and it had an enema, and I was in the vets for about 3 more days, and then someone told him to come to me. So I didn't like what I saw or felt. I did tell him I wasn't really confident that I could fix the dog's back. And I said, if you bear with me. So I manipulated the dog's back, and it seemed to be okay. I didn't lose it then and there on the spot. And then I said to him about it not going to the toilet and had an enema and still wouldn't go. And I said, look, when you put a dog on the magnetic blanket, you never know what you're going to get. Because every dog will be different on it. Some dogs will go home and sleep for ages. Some dogs will then get up and run around and be so energetic and that. Some dogs will just go poo time, do it and whatever. I've had people that said that they never go to the toilet at 12 o'clock, but once they've been on the blanket, they go at 12 o'clock. So I put this dog on the magnetic blanket on the highest vibration I could give it for 20 minutes. And in that time, I'm massaging the dog through the spine and making the dog feel better and going through all its muscles softly to help the stimulation from the external, from me, and the magnetics internal, and changing it. He took the dog off the blanket after 20 minutes, walked it out the front, and the dog emptied out completely. So,
gosh, I feel relieved for the dog just hearing about it.
Yeah, like I know it can happen with the blanket, but the spinal part of being at a different angle, 30 degrees, was my worry that I could have severed the nerve.
Gary, thanks so much for talking to us today. Hopefully maybe we can get you back on sometime and share some more things with our viewers out there, because like I said, there are millions of dogs out there and there's not millions of you that we can, seek this information or help. But I've got your website up on the page there, and that will be on the show. Is there anywhere else that people can find you, or you're Queensland based? So do you do any online things at all?
No, I've never done anything online. There is a Facebook page there, a bit on Facebook. I'm not very active in these sort of things, as you probably see. But it's word of mouth, I suppose. But if anyone wants to drop me an email, I'm more than happy to reply to an email and help them through that if they want. If it's diet or something like that, I'm more than happy. We have gone into doing products and that for it. We never used to, but because it becomes so demanding, I thought, well, might as well help people in this as well. So, I'm more than happy for that to happen.
Yeah, great. So Brisbane people, you can all venture over and see Gary, and everybody else, you might just have to find your own dog chiropractor and healer and therapist out there. Thanks very much, Gary. It's been a pleasure to have a chat with you and hear all this information. Everyone else, stay where you are. We're going to be back in just a moment. The Animals Chat Box is the segment where I get to have a chat with some of our viewers' animals. Now, it's not a verbal conversation like I'd ordinarily have with someone. It's a conversation using the language of animals, where we transfer images, words, and feelings from one to the other. I can smell on behalf of an animal, I can taste what they taste, hear what they hear, I can feel in their body what they feel. And you can gather a lot of information communicating this way, from behavioural issues to emotional and mental health issues. I can taste their food, and I can feel in their body where they're unwell or where they're injured. This is often referred to as animal communication. Right now, we have some animals waiting for us in the chat box. Let's go see who they are and what they've got to say to us today. She's got a lot of energy, but she also is saying to me that she doesn't like things out of order or things to be untidy. She wants her people in their spots as well.
Oh yeah, she's very much like that. Yeah. As soon as we've got some regular friends that come over, and she absolutely adores them, and she's like, right, sit down and give me pats on the lounge.
Yes. because that's kind of what she's showing me here, is that it's like, Mum, you sit here, you sit there, you go over there, you do this. It's like she's just kind of organizing everybody in the way that she sees that the energy, this is interesting, that the energy of everyone fits together.
Oh, okay.
And so that's kind of interesting. It's not so much who should be talking to who, it's like who fits together energetically, because she's very, as most animals are, she's very sharply attuned to energy, and she knows exactly where you're at any given time, whether you're with her or not. She knows how you're feeling, good, bad, or indifferent, and she tries to adjust her energy accordingly to, if you're, let's say you're not feeling very happy or you're feeling tired, she tries to pull that unhappiness away from you, or the fatigue or tired. She tries to pull that off you so you can actually have more energy. So she's very much, she's almost like a service dog in a lot of ways. She's very much trying to help you in every possible scenario.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. We're very close, and because I haven't been working the last few months, and also because of COVID, I've been home. So we are very, she's become really, really attached to me, and she gets separation anxiety. She knows if I'm getting ready to go out, she's like, am I coming? Am I coming?
You just need to explain to her when you're going out that, I'm going to, let's say, the supermarket. I'm going to the supermarket and I'll be back in an hour. And if you're one of those people that is always late, just add a bit of time onto that, because animals that have separation anxiety issues, you need to be precise. If you're going to be an hour, you need to be back in an hour. If you're going to be maybe 3, don't say 1, say 4. So buy yourself some time a little bit, because you may come back and find that she's quite distraught, or she's chewing lounges and doors and things like that. So depending on the degrees of anxiety, just always let her know where you're going, how long you're going to be. It doesn't matter whether you think that's a bit stupid. She will understand you, and it will just help her just sort of stay a little more calm in her body.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay, that's a good idea. Yeah. She's not, though, which is awesome. She doesn't, destroy things. And then when we go out, she's very protective. So she barks at other dogs and other people. If they're talking to me, she'll start barking at them.
She's got a lot to say about everything.
Okay, yeah.
You might not hear her when she's doing that, when she's out there barking, and it's like, Mum, what about me? Pay attention to me. Stop talking to that person. I'm your person. Talk to me. So there's a part of her trying to bring your attention back to her.
Yes. Oh, yeah, she likes to have the attention. Yeah. I thought it might have been, like a protectiveness type of thing.
Yeah, there is an element of that too. They kind of go together. She's also a great guard dog. She tries to warn you of people that you shouldn't be around or that you shouldn't be talking to. And also not just people, but locations. If she feels a little uncomfortable with the location, again, it's this energy thing. It's like, this is not a good place for the energy that you have surrounding you at the moment.
Yeah.
You could go to a better place. Like, you might go to a shopping mall when you're feeling, a bit edgy, where you should be going and sitting down by the river, say. Like, she's just trying to show you. So don't go there, go here, kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay.
One of the things that we find that we do, because we're human and we're brought up saying things with no in front of them, no, don't, stop, can't, shouldn't, all of those words. And those words are fine, except it helps create an image in our mind for our animals to see, because our animals are telepathic and they see the images that are going on in our mind. It shows them what you don't want them to do. So when we say things like stop barking, don't bark, no barking, we're effectively showing a dog barking in our mind.
When we met and we talked about this, you suggested saying be quiet, and letting her know that she doesn't need to protect me, I'm protecting her, and all of those sorts of things. So I started using those words. I would say be quiet, and before we leave the house, I say, now I'm going to protect you. We're going to be safe. I'm going to protect you. You don't need to protect me. So I do try and project those images in my mind to her before we leave the house. I'm using treats, and I also started using a little squirt bottle. If she gets to the point where she's barking, to snap her out of it, I squirt her with the water, and I say, be quiet, be quiet. And I've started using those words rather than no barking. And she is getting heaps better. She's really showed, just in the month or so since we've seen each other, she's showed quite a bit of improvement. She's much better, especially in the elevator and in the foyer of the building where it's more confined. She still barks, occasionally, and she still will reach that trigger point where she'll go, she'll suddenly lunge. But if I can prevent that, and I tell her to be quiet before we leave the apartment and do the training with the treats along the way, we're getting a lot more successful trips without any barks, which is really good.
And getting their attention, because when dogs are in full strap barking, they can't hear you. It's like there's not even a voice. Can't even hear Mum's voice. There's a little bit here, and I know you're using the water bottle there. That makes her so cross. She said she hates that, especially if it gets in her eyes. There's a little bit of skin just under the chin here, and it's not about hurting. You don't want to hurt, but you want to get their attention. Just a short, sharp, just pull down here. Gigi, be firm, and get her attention that way, and then say, be quiet. Yes. Barking is unacceptable. Do you have other animals at home?
Yes, we've got a rag doll. This is Simba.
Hello, Simba. Aren't you beautiful? Just puts up with Gigi. Is Gigi a bit rambunctious around Simba? Yeah, I'm just getting a bit of an eye roll from Simba. It's like, oh, that dog. How do they get on?
Since they've grown up, they just tolerate each other.
Yes. Yeah, I think the energy of Gigi is a little bit too much for Simba. So Simba's a bit more passive and quiet, and Gigi is not that. Simba needs a little bit of exercise. Do you play with him at all, Justine?
Probably not as much as I could. Yeah. Because Gigi probably tends to take, steal all the limelight. So but he's very affectionate, so he gets lots of cuddles. But I have told myself I need to go and get him some more toys and play with him some more. Yeah. So
and you might actually have to be a little bit patient with that, because I think he'll give you that look of what are you trying to do? I just sleep. I'm a cat. I just want to sleep. Take your toys away. So you'll have to educate him a little bit and just be persistent. Simba's got something to say here. Mum needs to go out more.
Oh, do I? That's true too.
So what he's saying is that you need more social life. So if you're going out for work, which is great because you're probably interacting with people, but you need more people around, more social life, and more coffee dates, he says. Have you been out and about doing, social activities much these days, or are you a bit housebound?
I don't get out as much as I used to, so I probably need to push myself a little bit more to make those social, dates to get out with friends. Yeah.
Well, that's your little message from Simba for today. So thank you to Simba as a ring-in, and Gigi as the star of the show, and of course Mum Justine.
Make your day richer with the Richard Wilmore Show. Meet amazing musicians, talented actors, brilliant authors, hilarious comedians, and the most creative people in entertainment. Download the KP Media TV app to watch on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire.
That's it for tonight, everyone. The show's over for another week. Thanks so much for tuning in. Don't forget, subscribe to the YouTube channel, share the pages around. Thanks very much for watching. I'm Romy Bueller. I will see you back here next week.